friends, it's Christy, and I'm so happy to be back with you on the My Favorite Things YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using the Penguin Party stamp set by Stacy Yakola. So I have stamped all my images out in extreme black hybrid ink on some Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth Premium White cardstock, and I'll be coloring with my Copic markers. For my penguins, I'm going to use some warm grays, and I'm using the darker tones for the areas that I want to look black. I chose W3, W5, and W7. I like to color darkest to lightest in most cases, so I'm starting with that W7 and laying in some shadows any place that I think that they should go. A little bit on the bridge of the beak area, and then down the back of the head and the body, and also on the undersides of the little flippers, wings. And then I'm going to begin to blend those out with the W5, making sure to really scrub over the very edge of that W7 so that that pigment gets broken up and it gets a nice and smooth blend. I also will be doing a second layer off screen. That's just something I like to do. It just really helps with the blend and also beefs up the saturation of the images. So before I do that, I'm going to finish with the W3 for these darker areas, just filling in any remaining white space. For the other two penguins, I'm going to be using the same exact colors, but I will be flipping my light source. I want there to be a central light source, so I'm adding those shadows down the backs of their bodies so that the light is kind of facing them and highlighting their adorable little features. So on this guy, I put his shadows down the right-hand side of his body, except for that little bit on the bridge of the beak area. And then for the third little guy, I'm going to put his shadows on both the left and the right since he's turned more forward, but I will add just a little bit more heavy on the right hand side since he's tilted a little bit toward the left. For the lighter parts of their bodies, I'm going to use W00 and W1. I left the W3 out because I'll be using that for something else in a minute, but I just used the lighter two shades on the white parts of their body. I started with that W1 to lay in a bit of shadow, blended out with the W00, and left the center part or the highlighted part with the white cardstock. So I did the same thing on the other two penguins, and now I'm coloring the center pennant banner with all three of those shades, starting with the W3 and then blending out with the lighter two. Then I wanted to add some rosy cheeks to my penguins and just make them look extra cheerful. This is a party scene after all. So I added a little oval with the R20 and then traced around the oval's edges with the R11. Then I added in R00 and I'm going to do another pennant banner. I'm putting that darkest color, the R20, in the right corner and blending toward the left with the lighter two shades. Then I'm going to color in the pom-pom on the party hat for the penguin on the left. And I'm also going to do some of the stripes on the party hats. So I'll just once again start with that R20, skip over a few and do another one, and then I'll blend those out with the R11. And then I'll finish up the penguins with their beaks and feet. I'm using YR14 and YR18 for those. I just added a little of the YR18 closest to the body or in the area that they should be shaded, and then blended out with the YR14. And it's such a small area that just the two shades work just fine. Then I'll move on to my next combo, which is BG10, BG11, BG13, coloring another one of the party banners. And by the way, I did stamp the word party on that banner. There are two different options in the stamp set. You can do party or happy, or you can just leave it blank. So I think that's really fun that you have options. So I'm going to do a few more stripes on each of the party hats. Just trying to skip a few and, go further up so that the colors are kind of spread around. And then I'll also do the little pom-pom for the penguin on the right. So my red combo was a little tricky. I wanted more of a tomato red that had a bit of an orange tone into it to tie in the orange of their beaks and feet. And I don't really have any Copics that are in that orange-red family, so I decided to fake it. So I used YR07 with R24 and R29, which kind of just tilts that color a little bit more orange leaning. So I am using those 3 shades together for another party banner, more stripes on the hat. And then I'm also going to do the balloon in red. I thought it would be fun to have a nice bright pop of that kind of tomato red color on the scene, and it would tie it in one more place. So for the balloon, I decided to put my shadow on the left-hand side, and I am using the R29 for that. And then I'm blending up with the R24. Then I'll add the YR07. And I decided that I was going to need one more shade since that's a much larger area. So I brought in YR04 to finish that off. The last color that I wanted to bring in was a turquoise. So I chose BG32, BG45, and BG49. So I'm going to finish off the party banner, and I'm going to do another stripe on the party hats. I'm going to be left with one extra stripe that didn't get one of the colors, but it's too close to the turquoise to do another turquoise. I didn't want two right next to each other. So I'll go back and fill in those last stripes with one of the pale warm grays so it looks kind of white and matches that party banner. So I finished off the pom-pom with those shades, and like I said, I'm going to grab that W1 real quick and just add a touch of that to finish those off, and then I'm going to trim these out with their matching dies. For my background, I wanted to use a piece of pattern paper, so I'm choosing one of these from the Buffalo Brights 6x6. I went with this pale aqua, and I'm trimming that down with one of the elegant rectangle stacks. I'm also going to choose another piece of pattern paper from the Poppin Polka Dots 6x6. I chose a darker blue, and I'm trimming that down with the largest of the A2 stitch rectangle stacks set 2. I'm going to pop the lighter one into my MISTI so I can stamp my sentiment. I'm using the same extreme black ink that I used for my images, and I'm stamping birthday wishes from here to here, and I'm just making sure to stamp that down a few times so I get a nice bold impression. Then I'm going to pop my card base in my MISTI. I'm using a piece of snow cone cardstock that I have trimmed down to a standard A2 size card. It's 4 1/4 tall by 5 1/2 wide. And I'm stamping happy birthday to you, and also the little penguin that's jumping out of the present. I thought that would be really cute to have on the inside and just tie the whole card together. So now I'm ready to start assembling. I've also trimmed out a stitch scalloped basic edges too, with just some white cardstock to serve as the floor to ground my images. I'm going to glue my background piece to a piece of plain white cardstock just to add a little stability to that so I can pop it up with some foam tape later on. And then I'm going to add this scalloped piece to the bottom. And I really like that little scallop detail that will add just a little extra something behind the images. Then I'll take my other piece of pattern paper and I'm going to adhere that to my card front. It leaves just the slightest border on the outside edges so you can see that snow cone cardstock peeking through. I've added my foam tape like I mentioned, so I'll peel off those release papers and center that focal panel on the card and then press that down into place. And now I'm ready to bring in my images. I'm starting with the penguin that's holding the balloon because he's going to be behind the two with the banner. So I'm just adding him really close to that sentiment so it highlights that. And then I'm going to add my two penguins. I've added a little bit of foam tape to the pom-poms on their party hats because that part is going to hang over the edge of the focal panel just slightly. So I'm going to carefully position those guys and make sure I have them right where I want them before I press them down into place. And the foam tape behind the pom-pom on the right was just slightly too big, so I had to trim that down to about half the size and just tuck that in behind it so it would be well supported. I felt like there was a lot of blank space on this focal panel and I wanted to fill a little bit of that in and create some more movement. So I took a few of the music notes that are included in this stamp set and I stamped those down in the extreme black hybrid ink once again. So I did 3 surrounding the sentiment and then 1 over on the right hand side to just fill in some of that space as well. And then I'm going to finish up the card with a little Stardust Stickles to add a bit of sparkle. I added that to the 3 pom-poms on the party hats and then a tiny bit on the far right of each of the banners. I didn't want to cover up the letters, so just a little line of that. And then I also added some to the balloon. So I'll pick that up so you can see how that catches the light and give you another peek at the inside. I really hope you guys enjoyed the July edition of Christy Gets Crafty with my favorite things. If you did, please be sure to give the video a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. I love chatting with you guys down in the comments. Subscribe to My Favorite Things for more inspiring videos just like these here on screen. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.